Prabhupada did not
Ein bisschen langsam.
So this is unique in Srila Prabhupada, that he cut through all kinds of nonsense, material nonsense, sentimentality and everything, which is ultimately a quality of a sadhu. How do you do this now? This way. Which is ultimately a quality of a sadhu, one who cuts through. You know, the sadhu just walks around and he thinks, this is nonsense, you are nonsense. But sadhu cuts through the nonsense of illusion. That yesterday you heard the Association of Devotees, Maharaj was speaking, how important it is, the Association of Devotees. So in the Association of Devotees, our nonsense ideas of illusion will be cut, like cut. If you really associate with advanced devotees, your illusion will be cut. There's no question about it. Everybody said, Prabhu, you're on a trip, or this is not proper, or this is wrong, or, as we have so many wonderful ideas, we all have so many amazing ideas in the material world, but sadhu is one who cuts through it, just immediately. As Prabhupada says here, do you think the rich man, everybody's a glorified rich man, or actor, when actress come on a red carpet, everybody's screaming, you are wonderful. But we don't know. These people are also depressed. People are also sick. People also die. I'm 52 years old, and we were just talking recently. And George Harrison, he died when he was 54. Because I was now in Bhaktivinoda Manor. And they had a birthday, they celebrate birthday of George Harrison in the Bhaktivinoda Manor. It's a big festival, bands playing and prasadam, and come, I don't know how many 100 people came, and Vyasa Puja of George Harrison. But he died when he was 54. With all the money, I think he left like something like 600 million pounds, something like amazing amount of money. 600 million pounds, or at least 250 million pounds, like a huge amount of money. And he couldn't save himself. He died. So why didn't he could pay somebody to do something about it? He died when he was 54. This is like 2 more years, and that's it. So everybody died. Prabhupada saw this. Prabhupada was cutting through. Prabhupada was cutting through everything. They didn't went to the moon. It's not possible because the Shastra doesn't support it. The whole world, Prabhupada went against the whole world, against the politicians, against the, he called all these professors, this is all foolishness, this is rascaldom. Imagine the most important professors. You know how professors are so puffed up, Professors in the university, they're like a super smarta brahmanas. They are like the top of the society. You cannot, and they have a handful of them, and they keep them like, isn't it? They keep themselves like deities, And the Prabhupada just came and said, this is nonsense. This is all so-called scientists, this is all nonsense. This is like cutting through. I was once in Florida, in one small town, and behind this devotee's house, Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayalnita ki Jaya. Behind this devotee's house was a forest, jungle. And if you know, in Florida, the jungle is like very thick, very rich. It's not like we have here a few trees. They're like bushes and all kinds of thorns, and you actually cannot go through. You cannot go through. You cannot. You have to cut through this machete. To go through this jungle, you have to cut through machete. And even then, there's so many obstacles. So this is material world. So many obstacles. So many ideas. As Chaitanya Charitamrita says, there's a crocodiles, in the water of the material world, crocodiles of various philosophies. All kinds of ideas, and everybody has a wonderful idea. The Prabhupada just cut through all of this. This is all nonsense. You all die. He will die. I will die. Everybody will die. Because this is the ultimate point, death. Death is the ultimate point. Anyways, let's read a little more. Somebody is a millionaire, but don't think that his body is not kleshada. His body is also kleshada, giving some pain. Nobody is free from klesha. There was a very big rich man in Calcutta, so he could not eat. His appetite, there was no appetite. He's a rich man, so he was given sufficient foodstuff and simply show he could not eat. But a big rich man. And one poor man was passing on the street, taking a fish and singing very jubilantly. So this gentleman said, I have become such a rich man, but I have no appetite in spite of so many nice foodstuffs before me. And that poor man is carrying one fish. He is thinking he'll go and cook it and eat it very nicely. He's so jubilant. So if I would have become a poor man like him, I could have enjoyed some food. He was wishing like that. Because real business is sense gratification, in spite of his becoming rich, he could not gratify his senses. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments, questions, or anything else to add?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you said that when you associate with sadhus, then your illusions are
Shattered.
Does that happen how does that happen? Does it happen internally because you're associating with sadhus and because you have this kind of association, you start to realize in your heart that these ideas you have of yourself are just not really practical? Or is it something that somebody tells you?
It depends on the person. Each person has a different way, different realization. We're all different. We all come from different backgrounds and from different karmas from the previous lives. To somebody it is just like this, to somebody it's dull, it can just take forever. I met one devotee in Scotland. He's a devotee, he met devotees 30 years ago in the Glastonbury festival. Glastonbury is the music festival that everybody's drunk and stoned and stuff like this. And he liked the devotees and he joined only 10 years ago. It took him 20 years to join the Hare Krishna movement. And he said, it took me so long, I couldn't. He said, I know I should have done it, but I couldn't. So some people take so long, and some people just like that. Just easy. And so the same way in association with sadhu, some people accept, some people just, sadhu says one word and you just like, wow, that's amazing. But some people just not possible. There was this one sannyasi right now, he's a Prabhupada disciple. He came, you can see it in Krishna memory, I know him personally also. He came to 26 Second Avenue in 1966. It's like early days. And he came and he said, this is all garbage. And he started offending Prabhupada. And he said, this is all nonsense. And he had the arguments with Prabhupada that they kicked him out of the temple. Something like this. I don't know exactly the details, I forgot. But he was arguing with Prabhupada. He said, this is all wrong, and they kicked him out. But he kept on coming, and then he left, and then in the end he took initiation from Prabhupada. And now he's a sannyasi in ISKCON for so many years. He was a brahmacharya for so many years. Some people are like this, some people are very easy, some people are, so there's different. I'm actually just I'll speak about this a little bit in Srimad Bhagavatam verse now about Maharaja Rahugana and Jada Bharat. How Rahugana immediately understood, wow, this person is very advanced. How is this possible? Because of he had the previous, obviously, some education and some previous advancement. For him to see Maharaj Bharat, Jada Bharat at that time, he immediately understood this is a very advanced person, and he just accepted it. But it could be also the other way around. He could have just, this is a nonsense guy. So, anything else? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nashta Prayesha Bhadrashu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. This is another one of the verses which are difficult to read. Bhagavanapi Manuna Yatavad Upakalpita Pachiti Priyavrata Naradayor Avishaman Abhishamik Shamanayor Atmasam Avastanam Avan Manasam Kshayam Avyayachritam Pravartayan Agamat. I don't expect anybody to repeat this. Bhagavan, the most powerful, Lord Brahma, Api, also, Manuna, by Manu, Yatavat, as deserved, Upakalpita apachitihi, being worshipped, Priyavrata Naradayo, in the presence of Priyavrata and Narada, Avishamam, without aversion, Abhishamik Shamanayo, looking on, at Masam, just suitable for his position. Avastanam, to his abode. Avakmanasam, beyond the description of mind and words. Kshayam, the planet. Avyavahritam, extraordinarily situated. Priyavratan, departing. Agamat, returned. Lord Brahma was then worshipped by Manu, who respectfully satisfied him as well as he could. Priyavrata and Narada also looked upon Brahma with no tinges of resentment. Having engaged Priyavrata in accepting his father's request, Lord Brahma returned to his abode, Satyaloka, which is indescribable by the endeavor of mundane mind or words. Purport. I'll read first the second part of the purport, because I want to speak more on the first part of the purport. It is stated in this verse that Lord Brahma returned to his residence, which is as important as his own personality. Lord Brahma is the creator of this universe and the most exalted personality within it. His lifetime is described in the Bhagavad Gita, Sahasra Yuga Paryanta Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu. The total duration of the 4 yugas is 4,300,000 years. And when that is multiplied 1,000 times, it equals 12 hours in the life of Brahma. Therefore, we cannot effectually comprehend even 12 hours of Brahma's life, to say nothing of the 100 years that constitute his entire lifetime. How then can we understand his abode? The Vedic literatures describe that in Satyaloka there is no birth, death, old age, or disease. In Satyaloka. In other words, since Satyaloka is situated next to Brahmaloka, or the Brahman effulgence, it is almost as good as Vaikuntha-loka. Lord Brahma's abode is practically indescribable from our present status. Therefore, it has been described as Avan Manasa Gochara, or beyond the description of our words and the imagination of our minds. The Vedic literatures thus described the abode of Lord Brahma, Yadvai Paradhyam Tad Uparameshtyam Nayatra Shokuna Jarana Mrityur Naritir Natchadvegaha. In Satyaloka, which is situated many millions of billions of years away, there is no lamentation, nor is there old age, death, anxiety, or the influence of enemies. This is like a wonderful place. So this is Brahma, Lord Brahma and his abode, because Brahma is the highest being in this universe. Purport, the beginning of the purport. Manu was certainly very satisfied with Lord Brahma, that Lord Brahma had persuaded his son Priyavrata to take the responsibility for ruling the world. Priyavrata and Narada were also very satisfied. This is interesting, you know. At first, they did not want to do. Narada was doing austerities with Narada was doing austerities with his disciple Priyavrata, and they did not want to give it up. Why would you give it up for the inferior engagement of being married? Because this is for the spiritual platform, this is the inferior engagement. For this material platform, meditation and spiritual practice is an inferior. You know, you're not making any money. Useless. This is the classic. You don't have anything. What is this? What is your achievement in this material world? You don't even have a house. You don't even have a car. And you're dressed in cheap clothes. You know, so this is the material view. But spiritual view is the other way around. Look at you. You have a big car. You have a big house. This is not good for your spiritual life. It's the other way around. I don't know the Sanskrit. Anybody knows the Sanskrit? What is the day for the transcendentalist? Is the night for the Yanisha Sara something Pashyati something. Anybody you know? Sanisha Pashatomuni. Exactly. This is the darkness. Is the light for the Muni. So they did not want to engage in this inferior activity. They were in a higher position. Why would they do this? But then his father, Swambhuva Manu, came and he said, what is it? Swambhuva Manu. He came and he said, you should rule. We need a ruler. And he said, thanks. I'm not interested. And so he couldn't convince him. So then he called the higher authorities. And every devotee who is practicing spiritual life knows that in spiritual life there are authorities, there is hierarchy. This is not like we all sitting now and we all wander like hippie style, we all embracing each other, we all wonderful going back to God together. Yes, but at the same time there's a hierarchy. And hierarchy means there's authorities. If you please the authorities, you make spiritual progress. If you displease the authorities, you don't make spiritual progress. Even in Goloka Vrindavan, there are these gopis, and you think I can also become a gopi and I can run around serve Krishna, but no, it's not possible. You have to please Yuteshwaris. There's a Yuteshwaris, the gopi leaders. If you don't do whatever gopi leader says, you cannot go there. They're not going to take you. You know, it is said there in Bhaktivinoda Thakur songs and Narottam Thakur songs. When they came first, there was a Rupa Manjari was waiting for them. And they said, whatever your name is, Manjari, go to the forest and pick this particular flower. And you have to do this. You cannot say, why you? I'm also Manjari now, They don't do it. They're just like, yes, they run. Because in the spiritual world, there's a hierarchy. In the spiritual life, there's a hierarchy. We have this, whatever this situations we have. And we know this hierarchy, there's a hierarchy in Varnashram Dharma. The sannyasi is supposed to be the highest, it says sannyasi is the spiritual master of the whole society. So therefore, when sannyasi comes, we offer respect to a sannyasi. There's different ashrams, different, the brahmacharis, is supposed to, be the legs of the society, run around, serve the guru, study the shastras. Then grihastas supposed to support the society. The grihastas actually supposed to support the whole society. Then vanaprasthas, they have to give up this condition, and sannyas. So there are different gradations, and we reward or we respect the devotees according to these gradations. I heard there was once incident, spiritual incident in somewhere, I think in Mayapur, I don't know exactly, I think it was in Mayapur. The devotee offered, there was in early days, nowadays it's like, there are thousands of people, but in the 70s or 80s, I think it was in the 80s, there were very, not many devotees in Mayapur festivals and things like this. So the sannyasis came, so the disciple took the flame from Radha Madhava, and he was standing there, didn't know whom to offer first, because there were like, 20 sannyasis, so he was standing there with his flame, didn't know what to do. And he was like, offered to one sannyasi. And then this sannyasi accepted, and then there was a discussion among the sannyasis, and the discussion ensued. Who should he offer first? Because this devotee who accepted first, he was the little younger in the movement than the sannyasi next to him. But the devotee did not know. Now sometimes you don't know who is he, how you join 72 or 72 in 3 months, So they did not know. So whom should he offer? So there was discussion among the sannyasis. They did not know how to. So they said, let's go and ask. Of course, the etiquette is you first offer to your spiritual master, whoever was there. If your spiritual master is a grihasta, you offer to your spiritual master first, then to the sannyasis. This is the etiquette, just for you to know. Whoever your spiritual master is, if your spiritual master is a child of 5 years old, you offer first to him. It's possible, Kumaras, So, and then after this, you offer by the age. But then they went to the Gaudiya Mat, because they said, let's ask Gaudiya Mat devotees, because Gaudiya Mat is very good in this Vaishnava etiquette. In this sense, the devotees in Gaudiya Mat, they know the proper etiquette given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So they went to the Gaudiya Mat across the river at that time, they said. So they went across the river, they asked, and the answer was very simple. You should give to one who is most advanced. So this is even more complication now. But this is interesting point, I thought, also to connect to this. That we also, besides the understanding of Vaishnava etiquette and living in the society, we also have to have spiritual understanding to see the higher things, like to understand who is advanced, who is not advanced. And he said, it takes one to know one. Therefore, we have this Bhagavatam describes the 3 levels of the devotional practice. One is Prakrita Bhakta, Maharaj was mentioning yesterday. Prakrita Bhakta Praya is also another word. That he is the materialistic devotee. He sees like, oh yeah, well, they're all nice, and they put quotes of, whatever, Osho, I don't want to offend anybody, but, there's also a quote, helping the spiritual life and so on and so forth. And then the next level is Madhyamadikari. Madhyamadikari is making this distinction, making friends of devotees, Maharaj was also mentioned yesterday, avoiding the envious and be merciful, and he's merciful towards the simple or non-envious. And the highest level is the Uttamadikari, and he sees everything is in connection to Krishna. So if we are in Madhyama, for example, level, if we are on Kanishta level and we think we are on Uttama level, people on Uttama level will just smile at us. Nice sentiment. Bhakti Gokishore Das Babaji explained this as somebody has put the cloth under a woman. She sees another woman pregnant, and she said, oh, I also want to be pregnant. She puts some cloth under the sari and she walks around. And he said, I'm also pregnant. And everybody's like, okay. So it is the same concept. If somebody, it takes one to know one. So the person who is on the higher level of advancement, they can see easily, oh, this person is at this level. Therefore, we are a spiritual master. Spiritual master supposed to be more advanced than you. And therefore, spiritual master sees where you at right now, and how can how can this spiritual master uplift the disciple so the disciple can make advancement in spiritual life? This is the whole point of spiritual master. He gives you the service, he gives you engagement, and he sometimes cuts you, as Prabhupada says. Sometimes it's a duty of a disciple to chastise. Like a thunderbolt and like a rose. Sometimes very nice, sometimes very not nice. But it's all for the benefit of a disciple. So here, Priyavrata and Narada Muni, they did not see, oh, now he broke our, meditation, and now we have to get married. As a brahmachari, we always in the old days, we were saying, this is the only instruction of spiritual master one can refuse, isn't it? This was in the 90s. The one instruction. You have to accept every instruction of spiritual, but one, if somebody asks you to marry a new brahmachari, you can say no. This was in the 90s like this. We all were strong brahmacharis. But, and if you see here, Priyavrata did not refuse. He actually accepted it because it came from such an exalted personality of Lord Brahma. And Priyavrata, they said, instead of looking upon Brahma with resentment, they very feelingly offered him their respects. With feelings he offered respects, because he's a transcendental personality, almost transcendental personality, Lord Brahma. So I have to be, Brahma is the father of the whole universe. And also, he's the leader of Sampradaya, after all. Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So if Lord Brahma asked him something, I would do, anything, of course, with great happiness, because Lord Brahma is asking. Imagine Lord Brahma comes now and tells us something to do. We would jump through the window, Lord Brahma, So the point here is what I wanted to make today is that we also have to make this understanding, and besides, there's one here, I want to read this from Prabhupada's. Prabhupada put it really nicely here. That says, secular state does not mean and we should be neglectful of the spiritual life, progress of life. Meaning, although we maintain this, this what we are doing, this is a parallel secular state, ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are trying to make a parallel secular state. Secular means not worldly, like world. There's another state in the world. Like we have a country, there's a secular state. Secular state, that does not mean that although we maintain the society, it doesn't mean that we can neglect the spiritual progress in life. So this is important to understand, that we are, although we do this, we have this orders, and we have a double president, this situation, GBC, the secretary, all these things is going on. This is like a state. We are organizing society like a state. But at the same time, the purpose of this state is not to have a state. The purpose is to actually make spiritual progress. So in the same way, in our own micro-universe, personal, we should understand that whatever we do is, although we live in the society, we live in the, we need to do Vaishnava etiquette, we need to behave properly and act properly. At the same time, if we don't make spiritual progress, this kind of loses its purpose. The purpose of all this is to make spiritual progress. Yes.
I mean, isn't it that by doing and maintaining the state, if that's our service, isn't that sort of intended with spiritual progress?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
You can maintain, you can collect so much money and build a big temple, but at the same time, my consciousness can be quite low. And we know also from the past, from the history, the devotees can become very good at certain things, or they are very good at certain, for example, collecting money. Some people have Shakti for collecting money. And if they have a Shakti for collecting money, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're very advanced devotees. Or somebody has a Shakti to be a good statement. to be a leader. Somebody has a Shakti to be a, I don't know, even big book distributor. Somebody can, you know, join and become like Maharati immediately. You know, you don't need to struggle like us. You know? Going on the rain and you do 7 books, you know, for 12 hours, you know, in Seattle, you know. Remember?
Yeah.
I mean, me and Jaya, we distributed books for many years together in America. In Seattle, rain, backpack. Nobody wants to stop. You know? They come back and think like, wow, what is this? but you know, and some people just come and, you know, we had recently one Bhakta 2 years ago. He just came to Leipzig and he just smiled and he did 100 books. Everybody was like shocked. In Leipzig, nobody ever did more than, I heard, the biggest was 25 books. Even in the day of big book distribution. And Bhakta such and such came and smiled, just smiling, you know, 100 books. Everybody was like, how do you do this? I said, well, people are nice. Everybody you know. So somebody has a Shakti.
People are nice.
Yeah, we were like, yeah. So you know, somebody has a lot of Shakti. Somebody has a Shakti, you know, to even become a guru. They have Shakti from the previous lives, so whatever pious credits. But this should always be understood. This is ultimately in the service to the spiritual progress, but ultimately these are all material designations. These are all upadhis, and we should not be attached to upadhis. Upadhis are there. We are spiritualizing upadhis to make our progress, spiritual progress. Our spiritual progress is the most important. But it's also sometimes very difficult to see who is advanced, who is not advanced. That's what I'm saying. It takes one to know the one. I was listening yesterday to Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Lord Chaitanya was one day feeling very morose in his absorption in the love of Godhead, and he started chanting Gopi, 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 Gopi. And then one student was, at that time Nimai, he was still Nimai, he is not taking sannyas. And the student came by and he said, what is this you chanting Gopi, Gopi? What is this Gopi, Gopi? You should be since you're a teacher, you're supposedly a leader here, you should chant proper mantras, Vedic mantras, you know, even Krishna's name. These mantras will make you advanced, not Gopi, Gopi. He could not understand the sentiment of Lord Chaitanya. We understand, when we read this, we read with sympathy. But we can put ourselves in situations, how many times have we thought, this devotee is just, or you know, this devotee, what is, look at him, this, you know, Brahman thread is hanging here, and you know, dhoti is half ripped, and who is this devotee? But this devotee actually could be probably more advanced than us, you know, or it happened, or whatever the situation. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very rich and opulent in silk, and when Gadadhar Pandit came and he said, "You brought me to see this advanced devotee, really? You know, look at me, I'm a sannyasi renounced, and look at this person, you know, materialistic to the max." But then when they started reciting the verse from the Bhagavatam, Pundarik Vidyanidhi displayed all his bhava, and then Gadadhar Pandit was like feeling ashamed. Oops, actually, sorry that I thought this way. So external sometimes is very difficult. Vaishnavera, Prabhupada said, Vaishnavera kriya mudra vigyehana bhujaya. We don't know what is the mind of a Vaishnava. And Lord Chaitanya was chanting Gopi Gopi, and then the student said, "You are nonsense," and Lord Chaitanya was angry and he wanted to beat him with a stick. And the student ran. He went back to the community of the devotees, of these students. And there was around 1,000 of them. They were all angry at Lord Chaitanya. They started criticizing him, making fun of him. Wherever they went, in the Nadia, they said, you know, this Nimai, and they were laughing. Ha, 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 ha. So, they're making fun of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was thinking, I came to deliver these people, and they're now making more offenses. What should I do? So then he said, let me devise a strategy. You know, so he made his strategic planning, as we call it, And he said, I should take sannyas. Because I thought also people are, especially in the Kali Yuga, people are such, Shudras is actually, nice word, but let's use it, Shudras, in a negative connotation. People are such Shudras that they cannot understand unless you have a stick. So in the Vedic society, stick means you are advanced, the most advanced. So everybody respects you. In this world, if you have a big car, if you have a big Porsche SUV or big, I don't know what else is there, Mercedes, big, gigantic car, then you are like respected gentleman. But in those days, if you're sannyasi, then you are like respected. Because people are Shudras, and we also have to understand, we also come from the Shudra background. At least some of us, most of us. So we should understand this. That we also fall into this category, that we cannot understand what really spiritual advanced person is. We see some person who comes with 20 people fanning him and everything, and you think, wow, that's it. We're falling for this like a child seeing some colorful things. Oh, very nice. But actually, we have to be advanced to understand who is a spiritually advanced person, who is not. And for that, first of all, we have to respect everybody. Trinada pisunichana, tarora pisahishnana, amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari. This verse we have recited so many times, every morning, every temple, and yet it's not easy to grasp it. It's not really easy to grasp it. We've done this, and then come back to our old, yes, now I can show who am I. The point is also, in our mind, when we do criticize, like the students, we criticize in Lord Chaitanya, it is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the students' intelligence was spoiled. If you criticize, your intelligence gets spoiled, and you think you are smart. And the people who are seeing you, they think like, oh my God, but you pose yourself as very smart. I just recently heard the story of one devotee. Anyways, he ended up joining the political party because everything was below him, in the end. But he thought he's very smart, and he still thinks he's very smart. But to stay in the association of devotees, to stay in the society of the devotees, we have to be actually smart, which means we have to apply Trinada Pisunichana Tarora Pisayishna. Even imperfectly, but we have to apply it. We have to apply Vidya Vina Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini. Shuni Chaiva Svapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. We have to apply this verse also. And above all, we have to understand that we need to take shelter of Krishna. We need to take shelter of Krishna. And this is the way to stay in the association of devotees. Because, so many devotees will come in here, going, coming, going, coming. In the past 40 years, how many people have come and gone, and bhaktas, and this and that devotee, and this leader and that leader, and all gone. Gone. Now when I just recollect our times in America, many people are gone. Just gone, plain gone. Where are these people? Where are these people? We don't know. Some of them maybe still somewhat devotees, but gone. It's not easy to stay actually in the association of devotees, because Maya is so crafty, we are so prone to be in Maya. We are so prone, if we feel so comfortable being in Maya. And we cannot see really what is really true, what is not. I was just thinking, when I was meditating on this verse, like, why did Krishna kill the washerman? In Mathura. This is such a strange pastime, that he was washing these robes of King Kamsa, and Krishna and Balaram, very, young, proud boys, strong village boys, not in sophisticated, rich, just like, how village boys are walking around, and he said, hey, nice clothes, give us some to wear. I mean, this is a king, king's clothes, and some two boys from village ask you for the clothes. Of course, I would say no. Go away. And he said, really? And Krishna said, really? And he said, Washerman said, yes, who are you to deserve to wear this? You are just village boys, you know. He offended him a little bit. And then Krishna said, oh really? Ping, and his head flew off. With not even, nothing, just like with fingers, like, and his head flew off. And this is such a strange, I was thinking, I looked at a little bit what happened, and in the previous life, it is described, Narada Muni, it describes in one of the Puranas, this is from Puranic Encyclopedia, that this is the washerman in the Ramachandra Lila. When he has heard that Lord Rama accepted Sita back after being kidnapped by Ravana, because she was apparently polluted in this way. So Washerman criticized Lord Rama. And he said, I will not accept you. His wife was also going to some other man's house, whatever else. I will not accept you. I'm not as sinful as Lord Rama, something like this, So he was offending Lord Rama. So this is the same Washerman. So Lord Rama was a little bit purifying him in this life, because last life, at that time, he didn't say anything. So there's a little bit of purification for him. But then another thing, this is like Puranically what happened, the karmically. But another thing I was thinking, why would he cut his head off? First of all, I think the real, for me, that he did not recognize Krishna as God, as Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a huge offense, that you are actually seeing God, Krishna himself, and you don't recognize him. Like Brahmanas, the Yagika Brahmanas, they refused to give food to Krishna Balaram. You're just some boys. And the women, they immediately knew, this is actually God. So the difference is in vision. And therefore these women are more advanced devotees, because they actually could perceive Krishna. Because Krishna cannot hide from his devotees. We know from the gopis. I was also listening, because of Chaitanya Charitamrita, this chapter is now talking about the gopis, and when gopis were walking around, and Krishna disguised himself as Narayan. And then the gopis said, oh Narayan, offer obeisances, everything. And they said, we respect you, everything. Did you see Krishna? They could not. They asked Narayan, did Krishna pass by here? So then Krishna could not contain anymore. He revealed himself. But the point is that the Krishna and his devotees are always inseparable. So if you advanced, we can see Krishna. This is Krishna. This is not Krishna. Of course, in some situations, like in Madhavendra Puri pastime, Krishna disguised himself and bewildered the mind of Madhavendra Puri. He could not realize this was actually Krishna. Some boy came offering some milk. But mostly, the devotees and Krishna cannot stay hidden between each other. So this is what I think was even greater offense, that Krishna asked you something and you said, you do not recognize this is Krishna. And this is all because we are influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. We cannot see these things. We cannot see proper. So the same way as this Lord Priyavrata, Maharaj Priyavrata and Narada Muni could very easily recognize Brahma as the greatest authority, because they had a proper vision. They could understand, this is Brahma. But some other people may not see it. Anyways, this is, I think, what I wanted to say for this. Yes.
You mentioned that this washerman couldn't recognize that these personalities are Supreme Godhead.
Yes.
Because, for example, my eyes are closed. For example, I am blind. I am not able to see who you are, something like that. Then whose fault it is? Because I am completely occupied by Maya. If somebody is occupied by Maya, how he could see Supreme Personality of Godhead? If he is a pure devotee, immediately he can catch that.
Yes.
Krishna.
If he is a pure devotee, he will immediately see, because Krishna is not bound by mundane vision. You don't see Krishna with your eyes. We do not see. If we want a darshan of Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, not as deities, but actual Supreme Personality of Godhead, living Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will not see him with his all mundane eyes. We will see him with the spiritual eyes. Daiva Netrena. Arjuna asked Krishna, or Krishna rather, gave Arjuna divine eyes. He said, I give you these divine eyes so you can see, even universal form. We cannot see unless we have a different eyes. So these eyes are not a measurement of seeing or not seeing. We're talking here about the devotion.
So this washerman couldn't recognize, so that's why he didn't give that one. For that, cutting head.
No, this is my addition to it. This is not the official statement in any shastras. I'm just saying this is. I thought about this. He was apparently here, Krishna, there's some other reason, because in past life he wanted to maybe purify him or whatever. I think he even, merged into this body. It's described in this Purana, whatever the story is. But I'm just saying that he could not recognize Krishna himself. And this in itself is ridiculous. God comes and you just don't see it. You just think he's an ordinary person. As in Prabhupada, actually, I collected here some Prabhupada from the Prabhupada Lilamrita, when Srila Prabhupada was took Vanaprastha, he left the home, he became Vanaprastha. And just to illustrate the point how even advanced devotees, they cannot recognize such an important devotee as Srila Prabhupada. Such an important devotee in the history of Vaishnavism, in the whole universe. They could not recognize. This is like amazing to me. This is for me amazing thing. Prabhupada he took Vanaprastha, and then because he wrote for this a magazine, Sajjana Toshani in English, and Bhaktisiddhanta was very pleased. So then one sannyasi who was in charge of the mat, because after Bhaktisiddhanta left, Gaudiya mat split into many small mats, and each temple became one mat. For example, this would be a Cologne mat, even by Bhakti-bhushan, for example, Bhakti-bhushan Swami mat. This will be it. He will be in charge of the mat. So there are different mats, and once sannyasi invited Prabhupada to come because there were mostly young devotees in the mat and disorganized and kind of spaced out, and he wanted them to, to boost up the temple a little bit, to also he can write a little bit, and basically to be like a temple commander in the temple. Imagine you invite Prabhupada to be temple commander. So Prabhupada came and moved to the temple, and he said very soon he saw the devotees were fighting all the time, laziness, dirty, and Prabhupada wanted to do properly. And Prabhupada tried to instruct them, they did not want to listen, they complained even to the Maharaj and so on and so forth. Typical story I've experienced quite often. You go to a temple, people invite you to become temple president, and I go to a temple, and after like 2 months I want to change something, and they said, oh, you want to change something? And you're like, but you invited me to do this. And then Prabhupada had these amazing ideas to preach all over the world. And he said, I have an idea, the Sajjana Toshan, it becomes like bigger than the Illustrated Weekly in America, this big magazine. And Prabhupada wanted to print so much, because Maharaj was printing 500 copies every, 4 months. And Prabhupada said, let's print more, why only 500? And Prabhupada even took trouble to find a printer who would pay the same price for 1,000 as if he would for 500. And he asked Maharaj, I found the price. Maharaj answered, no, I want you to print 500, not 1,000. And whatever Prabhupada said, I want to print Chaitanya Charitamrita in English, Bhaktisiddhanta wanted us to do. And he said, no, you cannot do this because we don't have money at this time. And whatever Prabhupada wanted, to preach to the important people, so he asked for some clothes, and whatever Prabhupada wanted, there was a foot on a brake, foot on a brake, foot on a brake. For everything Prabhupada asked, not possible. And so I was just thinking, for them, Prabhupada was not a revolution. For us, Prabhupada is a revolutionary preacher, Shaktivesh avatar, directly empowered by Krishna. For them, he was a troublemaker. You came here to create trouble to our peaceful temple. This is how they perceived Prabhupada. A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. And on the end, they wrote a letter to Prabhupada. Not even Maharaj, but his secretary. And he said, Actually, I can read this letter. Oh, man, where is this? I think I now closed it. Which one was it? Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayal Nitai Ki Jaya. This is the one. Crying alone in the wilderness. This letter is like, for me, is like the best letter. I mean, of course, I'm sorry that this happened to Prabhupada, but here, this is a letter. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. We have received your letter written to Sri Sri Guru Maharaj on the something 55. Your project is very lofty, meaning you have amazing ideas, and we are well-wisher of our society. Praising. Since the last 2 months, in spite of so many difficulties, the difficulties of prasadam, a misunderstanding of the devotees there, and in spite of various other difficulties, the kind of enthusiasm you have shown that is possible only for an elevated Vaishnava like yourself. It's amazing how you could do all these amazing things. You are favorite Vaishnava of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and a friend of all the associates of Srila Prabhupada. Most of the devotees of Gaudiya Sangha Ashram in Delhi are new and less respectful. They cannot give proper respect to an elevated personality like yourself. Especially the lofty speculations that you have, meaning all these ideas to print and all these things. Our society at present circumstances has very little ideas. We hope with all your qualities, very soon you'll become settled independently and fulfilling the desires of Srila Prabhupada and start preaching very widely. Meaning, get out of here. We are suspecting it will not be possible for an able and respected Vaishnava like yourself to stay there long, adjusting with the illiterate and less educated devotees of Gaudiya Sangha in Delhi. Anyway, so then he said, you should spend... And he said, I'm sure that Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj will need you there for this. He's doing some parikram, and I'm sure... Basically, get out of here. This was the answer of the letter. You're such an advanced Vaishnava, but this is also lower class. They cannot respect such a devotee like you. So they could not, interesting, they could not see who is Srila Prabhupada. They couldn't see it. And even after, when Prabhupada became, His Divine Grace, and spread all over, founder Acharya in ISKCON, spreading all over the world, building huge temple in Mayapur, they still could not see it. And even now, you cannot see it. I had some encounters a few times, and I was invited for lunch to one place, and I was amazed. They called Prabhupada Bhakti. This is where are you from? ISKCON. From the Abhay Babu. I said, he's not a Abhay Babu. I was very offended. He's not an Abhay Babu. He's a Bhakti. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He's not a Abhay Babu. Even now, this was like 20 years ago. So you cannot see, but this is the reason. The reason is because there's a lack of advancement. So you may practice certain things, but you may not have vision. You cannot see, like Maharaj Parivata and Narada Muni. So, okay, I think this is enough. Anything else? You want to say something else?
You mentioned in the early days, America Brahmachari was very strict, and this thinking only one instruction we can reject from.
Sorry?
Only one instruction of Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
But from where is?
There's nothing, they're just circulating amongst the brahmacharis.
Not from Shastra?
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know, but this was amongst the brahmacharis, we thought.
If you compare this history, Priyavrata accepted instruction from Lord Brahma, but Kumaras didn't accept.
Yeah, maybe it's from there, I don't know. Maybe it is from there. Kumaras didn't accept.
Somebody didn't accept?
Yes.
Kumaras still elevate.
Yes. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's also sorry? Leelas, we don't know, because also, this was particular, it was really needed. This is, it was needed, somebody to run the sun,
37 text.
I'm sorry?
In 37 text, Prabhupada will complain so much.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
This text is rules, this what
They accept it. Yes. Yeah, but maybe his internal lamentation, Maybe he was not just like, I'm going to do it, It's not easy. I mean, you didn't go through this experience, but if you're brahmachari for so many years and suddenly you have to get married, it's not so easy. It's not easy. Like I was 17 years brahmachari and I have to, be married, One devotee told us, he was visiting our house 3 years ago, and he said, I cannot imagine, how can you share butter with a woman? And then he's married now, so we were laughing, now you can imagine to share butter with a woman. But when you're in this situation, of course you think, like, how can I do this? How do I share butter with a woman? Yes?
It was said in Satyaloka there is no birth, death, disease and old age. How is it possible? It's not a spiritual world. I thought in the material world this is always there.
I researched a little bit about the Satyaloka, and this what I found is from, I don't know which Puranas we found this. I found this in the Puranas. And this is only I know, that everybody was, I assume that this was lots of mysticism was there. It's a different situation when, mystic powers, we cannot understand mystic powers. We cannot understand.
That life is so long that they say there's no death because for long.
No, of course they had to die. Like in the heavenly planets, people have to die, but they are born, grown up with weapons and everything, and they die just like this. They sit there with cancer for 6 years in the hospital. They just die. So maybe it's I don't know. This is a different. It's very difficult for us to understand. As I said last time, in Satya Yuga there was no trees, like no trees, and people were meditating. So the earth must look. It was different substance. It was earth, but it was differently made. And they said everything, whatever you desire, if you're hungry, the thing comes from the earth and you eat. You don't need anything. How did this look like? I don't know. Only towards the end of Satya Yuga, the first trees appeared and people started taking shelter of the trees. I mean, this is probably the story of Adam and Eve. They were under this tree, ate an apple or whatever, So this was the first trees came towards the end of the Satya Yuga, beginning of Treta Yuga. And bushes or whatever. Before that, there was no trees. So how did that look like? I don't want to know actually, because I want to go in Lord Chaitanya's.
I heard not on the Satyaloka, even the normal heaven planets, there's not that like here. They just fall down. They start and garland start spoil it a little bit, and they go down slowly.
Yes.
Close the other planets, there is some planets of Rakshasas that start cutting him like this. And another point about Satyaloka, if Lord Brahma is pure devotee, all residents of Satyaloka help to him, serve him. Then at the end of his life, all residents with Satyaloka, with him, go to spiritual world.
Yes, they enter, this is described, they enter the body of Brahma, and Brahma takes himself.
If he is pure devotee.
If he is a pure devotee. This is all beyond our imagination. Everything is beyond our imagination. How does it?
Everybody from us who came from spiritual world, first position is Brahma, right? Prabhupada.
Yes.
Another Vaishnavas don't accept this. Gaudama, they don't accept this version. Not only from Prabhupada.
Mataji.
Ja, kannst du bitte übersetzen?
Du kannst auf Deutsch.
Ich habe gehört, dass in einer Lecture auf der Vaishnava gesprochen, dass Rajendra Kumar aus Ostrussland dass auf Satyaloka alle Lebewesen und Brahma haben einen Körper aus Raum, der besteht aus Raum.
Yeah, like okay. Und all the bodies are made of like a space or ether or whatever.
Und dann niedriger, dann haben sie alle aus Körper aus Luft
Und dann Feuer und so weiter.
Okay. Dann Wasser und dann das
Yeah. Das könnte sein. You understood? The beginning, everybody has these bodies of ether, and then later on air, water, fire, so on.
Rakshasa von Wasser.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is only for us to understand, approximately.
Body of Brahma, pure intelligence.
Pure intelligence, yes. Anyways, this is a little bit irrelevant to the topic. The topic is that we have to be advanced. We have to become advanced, Krishna consciousness.
Also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Abrahma Bhuva Lokah. From higher planets, all planets.
Exactly.
Birth and death. Different type of death.
But death. Noch was? Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya. There's no Jaya Prabhupada.